So far in the 2018-19 NHL season, we have a lot of NHL players having what we call a career year or a breakthrough season. So in today's video, I want to take a look at who I think are the top 10 players having a breakout season. We'll discuss all that coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. As I mentioned off the top, today's going to be a top 10 list of the top 10 breakout stars so far for the 2018-19 season. There really is a lot of great young talent in the NHL right now. This game has never been any more faster and more skilled, and there's all kinds of young players continuously improving year after year. And right now we have a lot of guys either already having or are well on their way to having a career season, or something we could call a breakthrough or breakout season. So now let's jump in here. I'll give you who I think are the top 10 guys that fall into this category. Number 10, we've got Thomas Chabot of the Ottawa Senators having an absolutely incredible season. He's currently on IR. His season did get derailed a little bit, but right now he's on pace, averaging a point per game, 38 points in 38 games. Obviously, with the big departure of Captain Erik Karlsson of Ottawa, there was a lot of question marks and wondering what's going to happen to the Ottawa blue line. And even though the Ottawa Senators are not having a great season, there's still a lot of offense coming from that back end, much of it coming from Hot Sam Bacho himself, Thomas Chabot, who's also named to the NHL All-Star team as well as the Senators representative. So Chabot certainly having a breakthrough season. I don't think he's still hit quite his full potential just yet. His career high so far in his young NHL career is only 25 points. He's already surpassed that at 38, and he's well on his way. Obviously, he's going to miss a little bit of time here with that upper body injury, but he's certainly still well on pace to probably hit, somewhere around 65, 70 points, which as a defenseman is pretty impressive, let alone such a young defenseman really breaking through from that 25-point season just last year. Now we've got Max Domi of the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Max Domi got off to a pretty decent start to his NHL career, putting up 52 points as a rookie with the Arizona Coyotes, which today still remains his career high, but obviously he's well on his way to eclipsing that so far this season. After that, his last two seasons in Arizona were certainly down, and then down more again. Last year was really rough for him, not really scoring a whole lot, and the bulk of his goals went into an empty net. So certainly was not a good year, needed a fresh start, and he got that when he was traded to Montreal. Now, I will be the first one to admit that I wasn't a real big fan of that trade. Galchenyuk for Domi, 1-for-1 straight up. I really thought Montreal was underselling here and getting back a player. Even though I liked Max Domi, I just didn't think he had that full potential like Galchenyuk had. But so far, he's certainly outperforming Galchenyuk so far, and is having a fantastic start. Got great chemistry with Jonathan Drouin, and Domi's still well on his way here to reaching potentially what we might call his full potential. Max Domi currently has 38 points in 43 games, which puts him on pace for approximately 72. So he's looking at about a 20-point gain over his career high, which, like I said, happened 3 seasons ago in Arizona. Next up at number 8, I've got Sam Reinhart of the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Reinhart has a career high of 50 points, which came last year. Obviously, last year he was a pending RFA, got into a 2-year contract with the Buffalo Sabres. Reinhart and the Sabres certainly took a while to come to terms on a new contract. They opted to go with a bridge deal, and so far that looks like it's going to be a great deal on the player side of it. Obviously, he still had a lot of potential to continually to improve his game and up his totals, and he's well on his pace to do that this year. Of course, that's a big part of the reason why, along with a few other players that are really helping the Buffalo Sabres greatly improve and are actually in the playoff conversation for the first time in a long time. As we stand right now, Sam Reinhart's on pace for approximately 80-plus points. Is pretty close to being a point-per-game player. So, that's a big improvement over 50 points and on a short two-year deal. So this coming offseason, he would be eligible to sign an extension and might be able to get closer to that bigger money contract that he was rumored to be looking for this past offseason. Next up at number 7, we got Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, Aho kind of had a little bit of a breakout season last year, but it doesn't look like he's quite hit his full potential here just yet. He put up 65 points, had a drastic improvement, and really showed a lot of growth last year in his season with Carolina, but he's well on pace to do even much more this year. As we stand right now in the NHL season, he is on pace for a 90-plus point season. Sebastian Aho is one of the few players in Carolina, along with his line mate Teravainen, that are producing much of the offense down there. Even though Carolina struggles to produce a lot of goals and are trying to find ways to improve their overall scoring, and especially in the forward group, Aho is certainly no slouch in that regard, ranking among a lot of the league leaders in points and totals around the NHL. Aho is one of the terrific young players in this league. Another guy who's a pending RFA this summer and certainly has picked the right time to really boost his totals just in time for contract talks. Next up, we got Morgan Rielly of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, out of all the players on this list, Rielly's a little bit older than most of them, even though he's not all that old. But Morgan Rielly is having an absolutely fantastic career year, certainly in the early conversation regarding the Norris Trophy for the top defenseman in the NHL. He's already surpassed his career high in totals and goals, and he's well on his way to doing that in points as well. For the most part, early in the season, it was Rielly and Thomas Chabot battling it out for the top scoring defenseman. Since Chabot's injury has occurred, obviously he's tailed off, and Rielly's really picked it up and continued it going here. But Morgan Rielly's really improved his overall game a lot on the offensive side of things. He's always been a pretty decent offensive defenseman, but his game has really gone through another evolution here and another big-time growth spurt this season in the NHL. And so when it comes time for the Leafs to name a captain at some point, whenever they make the decision to do that, most people assume it's going to be Matthews or Tavares, and certainly not either would be great candidates. But I would not count out Morgan Rielly. They very well might go that route instead here, to take the pressure off, Tavares or Matthews, and very well might go with Rielly, who's certainly well known to be a locker room leader and is producing a ton of points from the back end. And you can make an argument that somebody like that is just as valuable to your team and to a lot of those forwards up there. So Rielly having an awesome season, will be in contention for the Norris Trophy, and it'll be fun to see just how far beyond his career highs he can take this year. Next up, we got Matthew Tkachuk of the Calgary Flames. Now, Tkachuk, along with another teammate of his, which will appear in the list here momentarily, are a couple of the big reasons why we've seen a major surge from the Calgary Flames this season. The Calgary Flames, as a team, didn't necessarily have the greatest start to their NHL season, but right now they've been really rolling pretty solid, sitting atop the Pacific Division. Tkachuk is a big part of that, as I mentioned. Now, Tkachuk's career high before this year was 50 points, which was pretty solid in his first couple of years in the NHL. But right now, he's on pace to eclipse that big time, and hovering around a 90-point mark is likely what he's on pace for as we record this video today. Tkachuk has already matched his career high with 50 points in 44 games, and we still have a lot of hockey left. So again, like some of these other guys on this list, we'll be interesting to see just how high he can take this improvement year over year. But Tkachuk's really breaking out. He's another guy, as I mentioned, who's a pending RFA. He's going to need a big-time raise for next season, so it's going to be interesting to watch contract talks between him and the Flames as well. Next up at number 4, we got another Calgary Flame and teammate of Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Lindholm, who's fit like an absolute glove on that top line with Calgary between Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, Elias Lindholm, when he came over from the Carolina Hurricanes, was a player that we all knew still had a lot of potential and hadn't necessarily reached his peak just yet. Now, Elias Lindholm's another player who's already surpassed his career high in points, which was 45 previously. He's already at 50 points for the season, having an awesome season. We look at the Carolina Hurricanes, as I mentioned, are a team desperately looking for scoring, but when you can see a guy like Lindholm, who they traded away, as well as a guy like Jeff Skinner, who's already got, I think, 27 or 28 goals in Buffalo, that's kind of sad for that team. With all the trade rumors around the Carolina Hurricanes and then possibly considering moving Dougie Hamilton or Michael Ferland, at this point in time, it looks like the Calgary Flames did quite well in that trade to pick up Lindholm and Hanifin from the Hurricanes. At number 3, we've got Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning. This guy continues to improve year over year in his third NHL season. Yet another one of the big-time RFAs who's going to be looking for a very significant raise and cashing in big time after the 2018-19 season. As we head into the offseason here, there's going to be a ton of RFA contracts that are going to be very, very interesting to watch. I mean, we talk a lot about how the Toronto Maple Leafs have a lot of cap issues, or pending cap issues, I guess we can say, with all the big contracts they have to do up. But you know what? They are not the only team on that boat. You get teams like Tampa with Braden Point. You get the Winnipeg Jets. The Calgary Flames are going to fall into that category here as well with Matthew Tkachuk. A lot of these teams are not that far away from the cap, so depending on the final number here for the increase, there's going to be many other teams, not just the Leafs, that are going to be in a little bit of cap trouble, and there's certainly going to be some cap casualties as they juggle things around to try to retain these young superstars. But that's exactly what Braden Point is. He is a young superstar, greatly becoming not only one of Tampa's best players, but one of the league's best players. This guy's got lethal speed and great offensive abilities. His career high right now is 66 points, which he achieved last season, but right now Braden Point is on pace to eclipse the 100-point mark in the NHL. It's certainly going to be interesting to see as well how many guys we have in the NHL eclipse the 100-point mark for the totals for the season. We have a number of them that are on pace for it right now, and it's certainly going to be interesting to see how many continue that pace up for the whole year. But obviously we're at the halfway point, so a lot of these guys, are well on their way to accomplishing that. But Brayden Point is an absolutely phenomenal player. You could probably call him underrated. He kind of falls under the radar a little bit, but that won't be happening for much longer if that's the case, because a lot of people really take notice here of who Brayden Point is, and he's greatly becoming one of Tampa's top 1 or 2 players. And between him and Kucherov, I think there's certainly an argument on which one might be more valuable, but really Point is arguably, right up there with Kucherov amongst, take a look at all the other big names on the team like Stamkos and Hedman and the goaltender with Vasilevsky. Like, they really are a stacked team, and it's going to be difficult to keep all these guys together. So Tampa Bay really needs to win now while they can afford these guys and keep them under contract, because long term it's certainly going to be quite a challenge for sure. At number 2, I've got Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. As I mentioned, the Leafs are not the only team here that are going to be having a lot of contracts to do for next year and potential, cap casualties, cap problems that they're going to potentially run into here with these significant raises that are going to be coming due. But Mitch Marner right now is putting himself in a conversation to potentially get just as much, or very, very close at least, to what Austin Matthews might get on a contract. I mean, Marner's having an absolute phenomenal season. He's leading the team here in scoring. Marner is on pace right now for 107 points, which is certainly going to be well beyond his current career high of 69. Marner's leading the team in scoring, right up there in the top couple in the league. So it's certainly, a question mark of what he's going to end up with a new contract. Even though Matthews' totals are down, a lot of that's because of his injury. If you look at a point per game ratio, Austin Matthews does have a slight edge on Mitch Marner, but it's not by much. Matthews is averaging, I think, 1.37 points per game, and Marner's at like 1.31 or something. It's very, very negligible right now, and obviously there's a lot of talk that Matthews could get, Tavares money or potentially more. Well, you get to wonder that Marner's going to be right there as well. So it's certainly going to be, tricky and interesting to see how they handle these contracts, what they all end up getting. And hopefully, I'm sure for the Leafs' sake, they're really wanting to avoid what happened with William Nylander, so they don't go into next training camp and next season with either or both of these guys, sitting out due to contract disputes. That's certainly not something they're going to want to see. So they're going to have to roll up the Brinks truck and pay these guys big time, and I'm sure they're willing to do that. But it's certainly going to be curious to see where Marner falls and compared to Matthews. I know there's some talk out there that Marner wants the Matthews contract to be done first, so they can really see how that falls out. Because really, I do think it's fair to say that Marner does not deserve to make a whole lot less than Austin Matthews. I mean, really, they're not that far off from what they bring to the team. I mean, they're a different type of player to a degree, but they both bring a different dynamic, and Marner's right up there when it comes to points and production. So it'll be very interesting to watch the 2018-19 season, how it finishes up here, and how the 2019 offseason shakes off, because there's going to be a lot of big-time RFAs that need new deals, and going to be very wealthy hockey players here before next season. Now, speaking of wealthy hockey players, the number 1 player on this list, and it's going to be a big-time wealthy hockey player this coming offseason, is Colorado Avalanche forward Mikko Rantanen. Now, Rantanen, some people might not agree that he's a breakout or breakthrough player this year, because he did have a pretty big breakthrough last year as well, putting up over 80 points. But right now, he's breaking through again, and is on pace for 127 points, which is absolutely crazy. Obviously, Mikko Rantanen plays on a terrific line with Nathan MacKinnon and Gabriel Landeskog. I mean, obviously, Marner and guys like them are surrounded by great players as well. But, Rantanen's really taking his game up here yet another notch. If you think about it, if he maintains this pace, and I know a lot of people since early on said, oh, the pace is going to fall back. He's not going to be able to keep those numbers up. But so far, we're more than halfway through now, and he's done just that. He's on pace for 127 points, which even based on last year's totals is still a significant 40-plus point gain from last year, which is absolutely incredible. So for me, Mikko Rantanen is the biggest breakthrough season here yet again, even after last year's performance. Absolutely phenomenal what he's accomplishing with the Avalanche. Now, I know there might be some people out there right now talking about Elias Pettersson, how he's really breaking through, but you know what? Right now, he's a rookie, so I did not include him on this list because I don't really have anything else to compare to, and as good of a season that Pettersson is having, I don't think that he's anywhere near his full potential. So I think in another season or more down the road, we can certainly add him to this type of a list and see how much he's grown from year 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and so on. So for anybody out there kind of looking for Pettersson on this list, that's the reason why I didn't include him. But he's had a very impressive season, and he certainly is breaking through as a top rookie. But I kind of was going with players who have at least 1 or 2 and 8 years of NHL experience, so we have a little bit more of a body of work to compare to here. So that is my top 10 list for the top breakout players so far for the 18-19 NHL season. I'd certainly love to hear who would make your list and what you think of mine down below in the comments section. If you're new to the channel here, hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up before you go. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.